All right, live look at the stock market. Investors certainly going to be considering all this talk of possible war with Iran. Dow's down 300 plus points today, but we'll take a look at oil prices later in the hour when we cover the closing bell on Wall Street, which we'll do at the top of the hour. Right now, we are focused on the state of Georgia. The president has his speech there on the economy this afternoon. You see where it's happening in Rome, Georgia. Of course, we will cover that live. Ahead of that, in the news center with us is NewsNation political contributor Denise Gitsham, and we're also joined by political commentator Reese Colbert today. Welcome to you both. We just saw the president of a local small business a few minutes ago. Denise, it's like this pivot or shift or whatever political term you want to use for this president. I know that the country's been focused on other stories in recent weeks. So it's the Nancy Guthrie case, or an investigation there, or now the Epstein files. But for the president, even the buildup in the Middle East and the possibility of war with Iran has to hang over everything. However, today he tries to shift to the economy and affordability. How does he do it?
Well, the president has to prove that he can walk and chew gum, that he can eliminate threats against the U.S. and our allies and our forces in the Middle East, and at the same time, pay attention to what matters most, which is if he actually believes in America first, taking care of Americans first. And their top issue is obviously the economy. So this is really his moment, because this is the most friendly audience he will ever get. This is the reddest part of Georgia. This is a Trump 37 district where he's conducting this get out the vote effort in advance of the special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he has to nail this speech and reassure voters so that they come out and actually vote.
Yeah, everybody in the district's a fan of his, except for Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably. What do you expect today, Reese, from the president? Again, trying to shift when we're talking about other things.
Well, I think the president will do what he always does, which is create this alternate reality of what the economy is shaping up to be and what his policies have done to impact the economy. I think that what he is not going to be able to do is gaslight people out of what they are experiencing. And I said this, to be fair, during the 2024 election, that you can't gaslight people who are experiencing higher prices and saying this economic metric or this is good, and so everybody should be happy. I think that's what he's having a challenge with. And to Denise's point, this president has been very distracted by a lot of things. When he came in on a mandate, I think it's safe to say, a mandate to do something about affordability and about prices. And all we've seen is prices go up, not down.
Well, not in all regard. Like, gas prices come down, some prices come down, and the rate of inflation has slowed, right? So there is an argument to be made. It's not my job to make it for the president, but he could make it, Denise, today. But I think the Reese does hit on something, that even when you do that and you use numbers to do that, it doesn't always resonate. But that doesn't mean that there's not an argument.
Yeah. I mean, in this district, I did a little research. The average income, the median income, is $74,000. That's right in that middle class range that's getting hammered right now by rising prices. And Reese is absolutely right. Like, if we don't figure out how to bring actual prices down, and look, gas is a winning issue for him. Record low prices. 80% of the people in that district commute to work. So that's going to resonate with them. They're also heavily manufacturing jobs dependent. And so a lot of this talk on tariffs isn't going to, it's going to be a mixed bag for them, because they're for tariffs in theory because they want to protect production at home and their jobs, but they don't want those tariffs to drive prices up and make life unaffordable. So 100% agree with Reese. If this is really about America first, then he's going to have to prove and make that case as to why it is.
Let me talk about Iran for a moment in this context, because as I said, it kind of hangs over everything now as you look at the reporting and you see the buildup of our forces there. So Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are at it again on this issue as well, teaming up. And they're trying to force, Reese, this war powers vote. Got an excerpt here from what they said on Iran, that Congress hereby directs the president to terminate the use of the United States Armed Forces from hostilities against the Islamic Republic of Iran or any part of the government or military unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war. But you wonder whether this is just for show or not. How do you see it, Reese?
Well, I don't think it's just for show, but I also think that it doesn't go anywhere, because we've seen under the leadership, if you can call it that, Speaker Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a complete abdication to whatever Donald Trump wants to do. We have right now the president, or captive president, I know you want to call it, deposed president of Venezuela, sitting in jail in New York. And we're talking, and Donald Trump is talking about a possible regime change in Iran. What happened to ending wars? What happened to America first? And they haven't articulated how this will strengthen America's position especially considering that our deficit is through the roof and people are not feeling that economic gain. And so this is just not a winning issue, but for some reason, Republicans do not want to put their foot down. This should be a no-brainer.
Okay.
Congress is the
Yeah.
one that has the authority to authorize war, and them alone. They should use that authority.
Denise.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I just want to say every Congress has done that. This is not about a Republican Congress. In Obama, we had Libya air wars in 2011. We had airstrikes, and he said that the War Powers Resolution didn't apply because U.S. troops weren't on the ground. He had the ISIS military campaign. Biden had the Syria and Iraq airstrikes, Yemen and Red Sea strikes against the Houthis in 2024 and 2025. This is something that every Congress has not been able to overcome because of the president's Article 2 constitutional authority. The president is allowed to deploy U.S. troops without prior congressional approval if there's an imminent threat to the U.S., its territories, or its forces. And Iran has repeatedly threatened our forces, including our warships.
Real quick, Denise, what do you think the people sitting there will make of it? We'll talk about the geopolitics and everything later in the show, but what do you think the people sitting there waiting for the president today would make of it if he does?
I think they're thinking America
His
first.
supporters,
And I mean, I just think that they're saying, what are you going to do for me now? I don't think they could care less about Iran. And, you know, the sad thing is when you're a superpower, you're responsible for a lot more than just what happens in America. You also end up having to be like some sort of world cop, which stinks, especially when you have other things that you have to deal with here in America. But the reality is we can't abdicate what happens in Iran to just staying there, because we saw what happens when that happens on October 23rd, on October of 2023. So it's a lot more complicated than I think we can boil it down to on this segment.
No, I agree. We're going to talk more about it, as I said, in the details and the military aspect and the geopolitics and everything as we continue. Denise and Reese, thank you. In fact, on this question of whether we're headed for Iran, I mean, there's multiple